What was the initial reaction of you and your client when the red notice was put out?
I think that one has been expecting the red notice. We've been living in a Swedish fairy tale for some considerable period of time, and as a consequence we have a prosecutor who's behaving like a persecutor and applied for an international warrant before the domestic appeals in Sweden have been exhausted, and now she's got an arrest warrant in relation to a charge which the Swedish Court of Appeal has thrown out. So it's positively surreal, a surreal Swedish fairy tale.
So what are his legal options now that this red notice is out?
Well, the arrest notice really has no impact until it's communicated. There's been no communication to Julian or any of his legal team. The security services of a number of countries know exactly where Julian is, and the offer to meet consensually with the prosecutor still stands. It was offered before he left Sweden. It was offered again when he arrived in Britain before she went to court. It's been offered since she went to court, and it's been offered before and since the red notice. Julian has nothing to hide. His main interest is to vindicate his name. The prosecutor has not complied with her obligations to supply him with the details of the allegations against him, or indeed the nature of the evidence against him. Under Swedish law, she's required to do that. Under international law, she's required to do that. And so it becomes bemusing as to why she hasn't done that. And this is positively the most bizarre and exotic case I've ever done. There appears to be a little bit of misunderstanding about the process. The proceedings were actually dropped against Julian in Sweden by reference to the prosecutor in Sweden saying that there wasn't a case against him, that the facts didn't make out the charges. He tried to vindicate his name whilst in Sweden. He got permission to leave Sweden by the prosecutor after waiting for 40 days to meet her, and she refused or just declined to see him. He's then pursued her, trying to get his name cleared and to find out what the allegations were against him. He still doesn't know to this day. There has been no formal request from Sweden, anybody in Sweden, to meet him or to interview him. There has been no communication to him of the nature of the allegations or indeed the evidence. Now, of course, we have read, just like anybody else, what's in the press, but usually it's the obligation of the prosecutor to notify you as to what the allegations against you are, so that you can meet them when you come to be interviewed about them. And of course, this prosecutor seems to be attempting to severely disadvantage him by not complying with her obligations under Swedish law, under international law. And that, I think, is obviously a calculated and cynical risk. Now, the question you have to ask yourself, and certainly I ask myself and have a very open mind on, is what are her motives for doing it in this way? If you have the opportunity to meet someone consensually, quickly, to resolve an allegation of this kind, that's got to be in the best interests of not only the complainant but also the defendant. Truth and justice will out more quickly. If, however, your interests are not truth and justice, then the sort of show trial and the information being fed to the media but not to the defendant is the way that you go, and that's the way that this Swedish prosecutor has gone. Well, I think this is the curious case of WikiLeaks. There are an awful lot of things that are coming together at an unfortunately close points in time. So we have the arrest warrant, we have the Interpol red notice, we have computer attacks on WikiLeaks where they have many hundreds of thousands of gigabytes per second of information requests from their servers, which effectively block them. And of course we have the cables coming out at the same time, and some embarrassment to the United States and many other countries. One should be clear about this, that this is not an issue between WikiLeaks and America. This is an issue about WikiLeaks putting information into the public domain about a number of states. And there are a number of state actors that come out very badly, North Korea, Russia amongst them.
How worried are you that the U.S. government has said it might consider legal action and looking into criminal proceedings?
Of course, I've heard the bellicose statements from the State Department. Of course, I've also heard the requests and the exhortations for an assassination attempt of Julian Assange. I take those matters seriously, but until some action is taken, it's difficult to respond to it.
Just a last question. You said a number of your security services know where he's at. Can you give us any clue as to where he's at now? And if security services know where he's at, are they obliged to pass on that information to Sweden as part of this red notice?
We have a cooperative approach between our security services in the UK and those in Sweden, and indeed with the USA. So all of the information about Julian and his movements, I would think, is pretty transparent amongst NATO allies.